Beautiful Disaster 2012. Book 1, Chapter 11. Taken to Safety. The boat reached the edge of the school, and suddenly an older man screamed out, "Morning! Glad to see some survivors still out here. We found a few students floating around on a big piece of wood, and thought we should take a look around," said the older man. Doug turned and Taylor appeared next to him. "Ready to go home?" asked Doug. "Yes, I am," said Taylor happily. Tobin looked over at them. He smiled at the two of them and gave a laugh. "We should have a couple ladders hanging over the one side of the boat. Just jump over the side and into the water and make your way to the ladders," said the older man. And so people started jumping over the edge into the water below. Shane appeared next to Doug. "Hey, how are you?" laughed Doug, turning to him. "Heh, better now," he said with a laugh. "You going to jump?" asked Doug, and Shane nodded and said, "Yeah, I'm gonna wait, I think, though." After he said that, he turned and began to walk away. Doug nodded and stared over the side at the boat. "Cannonball!" came a scream, and the next moment Shane jumped over the side and landed in the water below. "That's Shane for you," said Tobin, and Doug nodded, even though his friend betrayed him and a demon is after him. He has never been more happy. He stood there next to Taylor, watching all his friends jump to safety. Doug then noticed a young man standing on the boat, waving at them. Doug looked. "Doug, look! Jordan is on the boat," came Tobin's voice. Doug turned to Taylor and she screamed, "Jordan!" She climbed up and suddenly jumped over the side and into the water. Tobin and Doug both looked down as she vanished into the water. She was now swimming rather fast. She reached the ladder, climbed up it, and Doug watched as she pushed through a crowd of people and flew into Jordan's arms. "Well, that's that," said Tobin, turning to Doug, which we watched as Jordan pulled Taylor close and kissed her head suddenly. Doug felt both happy to see Taylor happy, but he was also feeling lonely now. Tobin coughed and patted Doug on the shoulder. "Come on," he said, and after about 5 seconds the two of them jumped. The fall didn't last long at all, and they soon hit the water. After that they reached the ladder. The ladders Tobin crawled up onto the deck of the boat, and Doug was helped up by Shane. "That was a rush," laughed Shane. Doug nodded. There was a shudder, and the boat began pulling away from the school now. If you look at the school from a distance, it looked like a box poking out of a sea of diamonds. Doug was sitting alone on deck, watching the sparkling water now. He sighed, and then he suddenly noticed Jordan walking over. "Hey," said Doug, and Jordan waved. "How are you?" he asked, and Doug gave a shrug. "Tired, but I'm fine," said Doug, rather bored now. "I'm glad. Get some sleep now. I told Taylor to do that," said Jordan. "Yeah? She lying down now?" asked Doug, and Jordan gave a nod. Doug sighed. "Some sleep would be nice, but, began Doug, but Jordan spoke up again. "I wanted to thank you for keeping Taylor safe. Took some courage. She told me what happened," said Jordan firmly. And Doug thought of Knox. "Well, you're welcome," he said, back to Jordan. "How did you meet Taylor?" said Jordan, as he watched Doug stand up. Doug froze and stared blankly at the wall. I saved her from drowning," said Doug, slowly, and Jordan nodded. He had nothing to say now. Doug walked away through a set of doors as Jordan turned to look at the water. Doug entered a room and closed the door behind him, locking it. He didn't know if he was allowed in this room, but he didn't care. He stared out the window at the water. Jordan did the same thing on the deck, as Tobin sat with Shane talking about past events with a laugh, and Taylor laid in a bed with her eyes closed. Doug cleaned dirt from his face suddenly now. "How are you feeling?" came a deep voice, and Doug turned quickly and saw Spike. A white glow lit up the darkened room, and Doug realized it was a simple bathroom. Yeah. "I am fine. What do you want?" asked Doug, and Spike leaned forward. "Just wanted to say something to you," said Spike rather quietly. "I'm listening," said Doug tiredly. I'll have to make it fast, 'cause Knox is looking for me again. You need to keep your friends and loved ones close. Being unhappy like this? Knox will find you no problem, said Spike and Doug turned. I'll try, he said, and Spike patted his arm suddenly. Also, take this. I'll come back and help you. Train with it, said Spike, and Doug took a beam sword from Spike's hand. What's gonna happen now? Said Doug, as he held up the beam sword in his hands. In time, you will realize, my close friend. In time, said Spike, and in a white flash he vanished, leaving Doug clueless in the room. To be concluded in Chapter 12.